Hello and welcome to the mill. It is Father's Day weekend and I thought that would be a perfect opportunity to pay homage to Stonemaier Dad, Jamey Stegmaier. If there is anything, and maybe I'm just speaking in generalities here, but if there's anything Dad wants for Father's Day, it is to be acknowledged for all the work that he does and to be appreciated for that work. And so I thought, what better way to celebrate the holiday than to take a look at our very own Stonemaier Dad and see what a week in the life has been like this past week. I am working from copious notes this week, so I am going to be looking down and stuff like that. I just want to explain. Yes, I can't wing this one quite as well, but let's start with Sunday, June 9th, shall we? Sundays are usually Jamey's Sunday sit-down, and this week he covered his 10 favorite games with player elimination. Now, in the past, Jamey has stated he's not a big fan of player elimination, but recently came to the realization that he actually has quite a few in his collection that he actually really likes. And so he goes into what those top 10 are, and he has an honorable mentions list at the beginning, but he goes into games like King of Tokyo, Risk Legacy, Coup, Skull, and Clank. And what's really interesting, if you're trying to keep up on Stonemaier news and you want a little bit of inside scoop, is the end of that video ends with him kind of going into co-op games and how player elimination works in those games. And he talks a little bit about Forbidden Desert and how there's kind of two different methods of player elimination. One where, you know, if one player dies, then the whole game is over. And how the other one is if one player dies, the group can still succeed. And that naturally segues into his co-op open world game and kind of what he has toying with anyway right now. So none of this stuff is obviously set in stone, but he mentions a way where if the player dies, they kind of become both boon and bane to the group because they can still complete actions as they would normally, but if they take damage, the whole group takes damage. So you can still win together, but as that player who's already been, effectively health zero continues to take damage and it's hurting everyone, it kind of, speeds along the end game. And so, it kind of ramps up we got to get this done and we got to get it done now. So I think that particular mechanic sounds super exciting. And the more and more I hear about this open world exploration game, the more interested I become. So that was Sunday, and of course Jamey also posts every single day on Instagram, and so this week he posted a picture of the box of Legacy of Dragonholt. Monday, June 10th. Monday, June 10th is a Stonemaier blog day, and Jamey talks about 4 entrepreneurial, boy that's a word, innovations in 4 minutes. There probably can't be any more dad thing to do than to find interest in the mundane. And so Jamey lists 4 things that he's encountered lately. His AC guy has something better than hold music. An underwear website has a membership program. Watching Aladdin in the movie theaters has made him realize how significant nostalgia is in our gut reaction on whether or not to like or dislike something. And a recent Kickstarter named Forks is possibly forecasting how future Kickstarter programs or projects will fulfill in that, if the looming tariffs against China actually happen. And in the case of this particular Kickstarter, he's actually, the creator is kind of getting a box from this place and cards from this place. And so he's going to assemble everything himself right there in the States. And so maybe forecasting how things could be. That was the Stonemaier blog on Monday. The Instagram post, a little more sad. Walter, a big hockey fan, was rooting for his St. Louis Blues to win the Stanley Cup against the Boston Bruins, but could not pull out the win in Game 6. Tuesday, June 11th, Stonemaier Dad taught me the correct pronunciation of the game Sentient. I also thought it was Sentient. I don't know what I thought it was. Anyway, in the My Favorite Mechanisms YouTube video, He talks about a little kind of, not necessarily rule breaking, but it is kind of rule breaking. There's a little component or piece or mechanism in that game where you can use a little token marker to break the rules on the cards that you lay down. Kind of a, this has to be greater than that, or that has to be equal to this, or whatever. There's a little piece that you can either use to circumvent the rules a little bit, or you can use that piece for area control, which is another aspect of that game. Jamey liked that you had a choice to make. Are you going to use this piece to help you bend the rules over here? Or are you going to use it for the area control part of the game? All right. On Instagram, Jamey shares some pictures from a Seven Wonders game he played recently with the Leaders expansion. And did I mention it was a 7-player game? It's a lot of players in a game. Wednesday, June 12th, we have the typical or the regularly scheduled Facebook live stream that Jamey does. It was just a hair short of an hour this week. Jamey, in true Stonemaier Dad fashion, is kind of exasperated by new technology. Facebook moved some buttons on him, and he started the video a little unsure whether or not it would reach the masses. Thankfully it did, and we got a pretty interesting episode of the live stream this week. He opens up with actually the passing of somebody in the game industry. James Matthey passed this past week, and Jamey actually gets choked up on camera talking about this person that he's not actually met, but they've talked a lot, and as somebody who has built a lot of friendships around just being online and not necessarily seeing this person face to face, you can tell that it hits him hard, and that he's visibly and voice shaking. So starts out a little sad. But he did pay a nice tribute to his friend. The air conditioning in his apartment is still out, and maybe the mixture of the air conditioning being out and Walter still being a little upset about his St. Louis Blues. He's staring down Jamey and trying to get some attention, and when he doesn't get it, he takes out his frustrations on Biddy, which again makes for interesting live stream. But of course, the focus of those live streams is to deliver a little bit of news, but then kind of open the floor to the fans and to ask, whatever questions that they're interested in. So there was questions this week along the lines of, what is fun in board games to you? E3 came up, which if you're not familiar is almost more of a video game conference there. But asked Jamey if there was any games that interested him. And again, we get a little bit of information about this open world exploration game, because Jamey mentions again that he did see that there's a sequel to Zelda Breath of the Wild coming out, and he mentions that Zelda Breath of the Wild has heavily influenced his open world game. He also mentions Cyberpunk 2077, and that less because of the cyberpunk elements, but more because of the people who created that game, which is CD Projekt Red, who created The Witcher, and The Witcher 3 being the most recent. Also had heavy influence on his open world exploration game. He gets into a little bit of, his game is, how he interprets an open world game, and the things that you can do, and mentions that his open world game actually has an area where you can cut down trees. What that necessarily means, but just kind of giving you the idea that you can interact with all these different objects in the world. So again, another breadcrumb to give you a hint of what is to come in his games. So if that, speaking of questions that came up anyway, there was also questions about, why the boards are drafted the way they are in the Scythe modular board, and I'm not going to say oversharing, but I'm just trying to tie it to dad behavior. But someone actually asked Jamey about growing up Catholic and what his faith consisted of now. And I thought he gave a really good, thoughtful answer that was, considerate of, everybody who would watch. And so, yeah, apparently there is, I won't say there's nothing taboo on the live chat. I'm sure you could ask him some stuff and he'll, not dignify it with an answer, but I mean, faith is kind of one of those things that you don't talk about in polite company, right? As for the Instagram picture of the day, it was this peanut butter chocolate bomb. Sounds really good. Thursday, June 13th was a Stonemaier blog day, and Jamey actually wrote a tribute to James Matthey and kind of, presents, some just kind of how he knows James and how, James affected him and how the board game industry definitely lost a good one with James passing. The Instagram picture of the day was a picture from a 2-player game of Burgle Bros that he played recently. In this case, it was an easy win, and he got to try out a new power that he hadn't tried before. Here's a picture. Friday, June 14th, we get to another YouTube video. We get to a My Favorite Mechanisms of Crusaders, Thy Will Be Done. And Jamey talks about how much he likes kind of that dual engine building aspect of Crusaders. You have the kind of traditional worker placement where you are making your engine better for next turns, and it's kind of a permanent state. But how there's also a secondary engine that you can kind of toss resources into so that you can, even if you didn't invest in that particular action in the long-term board, you can save up and take a big action, which then kind of knocks you back down to square one. But even if you didn't invest your resources in those long-term, you can still kind of pull off those occasional big turns. And yeah, he liked that mechanism. And the Instagram picture of the day here was a picture of a game called The Climbers. Saturday, June 15th, would it really be a stalking Stegmaier segment without pictures from inside of his apartment or condo or home or however you want to define it? We have a series of pictures Jamey posts. He says, scroll left to see him proceed down the hallway and meet with the boss, the person who's actually running Stonemaier Games. Spoiler, it's Biddy. On top of all of that YouTube goodness and Instagram goodness and Stonemaier blog goodness, Jamey also posts on his personal blog. I don't necessarily consider that part of the necessary follow to keep up on the comings and goings of Stonemaier Games, but there are some interesting articles he posts and some humorous stuff. Sunday, he talked about a few recent movies he saw. Monday was about the disaster that was the scroll wheel on his mouse dying. Tuesday, some recent Black Mirror episodes, and Thursday, soccer and how you feel about the women's soccer team running up the score in the World Cup. On top of all of that, Jamey's also still very active in the Scythe Facebook group, certainly, but all of the Facebook groups for his games, BGG, and occasionally I see him on Reddit. So, Jamey, Stonemaier Dad, we see you. We appreciate the work that you do for us, for the community, for the Kickstarter, people that are just getting off the ground or who are just wanting, maybe some insight from somebody who's very well versed in that area, even if you don't participate in Kickstarter anymore. So again, thank you for that. That insight that you provide in the YouTube videos and the blogs is invaluable. If any of you would like to show your appreciation for Stonemaier Dad and you are not doing it yet, Jamey makes 100 blog posts a year, 150 YouTube videos, and just overall active everywhere. There's a program called the Stonemaier Champions that you've probably heard about. It's $12 a year. You get benefits like a monthly email digest that kind of breaks down the comings and goings, top 10 blog posts, stuff like that. But you get some good champion insider information there. There's also free U.S. shipping from the Stonemaier shop, and if you happen to be somewhere else in this great big world, discounted shipping outside of the U.S. And finally, if you are a Stonemaier champion and you participate in a pre-order, your stuff leaves the factory first. And in fact, like when the Scythe modular board went out, one of the Stonemaier champions that lives in St. Louis got it the very next day. So a great program, a great way to, I guess, monetarily say thank you for all of the work that Jamey provides for us. And yeah, that's all I have this week. As always, take care of each other, and happy Father's Day weekend to all of you that participate or who celebrate. Thanks. Have a good one. Bye. Now the favorite part of the show where I go la 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 la.
No.
Hello and welcome to the mill. It is Father's Day weekend, and so I thought, what better way to...
Hello?
Damn it!